Anyone who has ever seen a sporting event has probably seen a coach who's experienced a cold jug of liquid dumped over his or her head. As the players pour it, gravity pulls the water to the ground where it remains. But what if it didn't stay there? Instead, what if it suddenly fountained back into the air? This may sound crazy, but this is exactly what happens in some types of fluids. This unique observation shown in this video is referred to as the Kaye effect. A British engineer, Alan Kaye, first observed it in 1963 while pouring a viscous organic fluid onto a surface. The original thought was that it was some kind of reflection and the outgoing jet was simply reflecting off of the pile. However, upon further investigation, they found that a very different mechanism is occurring. The driving force responsible for this unique behavior has been found to be changing viscosity, and the Kaye effect is only observed in fluids that display shear thinning behavior. This means that as the fluid flows and shear stress increases, viscosity decreases. Shear thinning fluids include things like shampoo, soap, paint, nail polish, and even ketchup. We may not realize it, but we observe shear thinning behavior every time we wash our hands or put ketchup on a hamburger. It is the reason that soap sits in our hands and becomes liquid when rubbed together, and is also the reason it is difficult to get ketchup out of a bottle. In class, we studied Newtonian fluids, and that shear stress is a function of viscosity and change in velocity over change in height, or du dy. This equation is always true, but we always assume that viscosity is constant. In reality, viscosity is actually a function of du dy and n. In Newtonian fluids, n equals 1, so we didn't need to worry about this in our class. In shear thinning fluids, however, n is less than 1, and this means that as shear stress increases, viscosity in the first equation will decrease. The basic explanation of how thinning velocity of the fluid causes the Kaye effect is relatively simple. When the fluid starts to flow, the fluid generally forms a coiled heap, as we would expect. However, as the flow and shear stress increases, viscosity decreases and the shampoo slides down the side of the heap and ramps back into the air in the form of an outgoing jet. This forms a depression in the side of the heap that continues to grow and deepen, and the fluid continues to shoot into the air. This will continue to occur until one of two things happens. The most common observation is that the outgoing jet intersects with the incoming jet. This effectively ends the outgoing flow and the depression is refilled. The second thing that might occur is that the depression becomes so large that the dissipation of the energy due to frictional forces exceeds the kinetic energy possessed by the fluid. Again, the upward flow would come to an end and the depression will be filled with liquid. This cycle continues to occur sporadically and unpredictably as long as the fluid continues to flow. Unfortunately, the Kaye effect has very little real-world implications. However, it is a very fascinating fluid property, and it's a great tool for further study of fluid mechanics and better understanding of non-Newtonian fluids.